Hi, Parminder. All right, let's have a look at your back squat. So just a few things I want to talk about in the setup before we start talking about any of the movement. First of all, I want you to just be mindful of the bar placement. It's hard to tell right now because of the padding that you're using, but the bar should only be resting on the trap muscles and not hitting any of the bones in your spine. That can cause bruising and injury over time, especially as you start increasing the weight. So thinking about just squeezing the shoulder blades together and having the bar only on those trap muscles. All right. This is really great. We want the forearms perpendicular to the floor. We want the elbows pointing straight down. That's going to help keep the torso upright. I just want you to be mindful of this angle here in the wrist. It's not really extreme right now, but I don't want the wrist bending back at all any more than it is. I want you to think about bringing it more in a straight line with your forearm. It's not going to be 100% straight, but just imagine having that barbell right over the bottom of, right resting against the bottom of your palm, so it's over your forearm rather than more into your fingers, so we're not carrying a lot of the weight in the wrist, which can just hurt our wrist joint. Okay, now let's just have a look at your bracing right before you start your squat. So right here, I want you to take a moment to brace your core. So think about taking a big breath in. Imagine there's a belt around your midsection and you're pressing into all sides of the belt so that your spine is protected and really stable. It's also going to get rid of this slight extension we're seeing in the lumbar spine. Okay, so once you brace your core, then you're ready to start your squat. So let's have a look at a few reps in real time and then we'll slow things down. Cool, so some good things and some things we can work on. Let's just go back here. The first thing I want to talk about is the path of the barbell. So the barbell should be traveling straight up and down right from the middle of your foot. So you can see that it starts in a really good position, but as you start your eccentric phase or the lowering part of your squat, the barbell starts traveling forward so that by the bottom of your squat, you can see that the barbell is right over the tops of your toes and your knees. So you can see how big of a difference that is. So what's happening to cause that is you're letting the weight come forward into your toes, and that's throwing your torso forward a little bit. What I want you to think about to correct that is to send the weight back into your heels. That's also going to help get your hips back and down a little bit more, and it's going to bring your torso up. And why we want the barbell to stay on that path is because that's the most efficient way to move a lot of weight. So when the barbell's right over that middle line of the foot, we're stacking the barbell on top of the bones, and we can use our skeleton to help lift the weight. But as soon as the barbell moves off of that middle path, we're using our muscles to compensate. So the weight actually feels a lot heavier than it is because your muscles are working to get that weight back in place and lift it. And then it's going to be hard to increase how much weight you lift over time. So thinking about keeping the weight over that middle part of the foot so we're getting it right back in line there. Okay, let's get rid of this and let's have a look now at the bottom of your squat. So the main part of your lift. You're doing a really good job as you lower here to keep a neutral spine right until about here. So you can see here that your spine is neutral, so your back is protected. But as you start to come to the bottom of your squat, the lumbar spine rounds and the pelvis tucks under. So you can see right here that curve happening, and we don't want that because that can lead to injury. Your spine isn't supported there. In a perfect world, in the bottom of our squat, the hips would come below that parallel line of the thighs. But for you right now, the bottom of your squat is actually going to be here, where you're still maintaining that neutral spine, that neutral line of the spine. So for now, I don't want you to come all the way down. I only want you to come down as far as you can maintain the integrity of your spine. And then over time, we'll start working towards getting the hips lower while maintaining that neutral spine. Okay, now let's look at the concentric part of your squat, so the standing up phase. You're doing a really great job of keeping your hips and shoulders raising at the same rate. That's really good. That's what we want. We want to maintain this angle here in the hips. Sometimes when the hips come up first, this angle decreases, which is not good. So keep that up. Keep raising the shoulders and hips at the same time. I just want you to work on coming to full hip extension at the top of your squat. So right here, I want you to stand straight up. You see how right now you still have extension in that lumbar spine? So I want you to think about engaging in the glutes so you can come to full hip extension and you'll be standing straight up and down. Okay, now let's have a look at another view. Let's have a look at a few reps again in real time first, and then we'll break it down. Okay, just a couple more things I want to go over. First of all, I just want to address the width of your stance. It is very narrow, and it is possible to do a narrow squat. And actually, you have really good ankle and hip mobility for how low you're going in your squat right now and how narrow your stance is. But I think it will be helpful for you to take a half a step out in each direction. That's going to give your hips more space at the bottom of your spine, and I think that's going to correct your butt wink almost right away. So play around with how wide your feet are, and if by increasing that width you can get a little bit lower while maintaining a neutral spine. And then along with that, it might also be helpful for you to increase the angle of your toes out a little bit. Just when you do that, make sure that your knees stay tracking over your toes the whole time. So we're not letting the knees roll into the middle. And then last thing I want to look at here is just where your hips are. So our hips should stay in the middle the whole time, but you'll notice as you start to descend, your hips shift to the right. And then as you come up, when the weight is heavier, again, you're pushing more into your right side, into that right foot, so that right here, you can see how much to the right side your hips are. So that just means you're right side dominant. You're probably stronger on your right side, which is okay. But when you do this, again, it can cause injury. So I want you to think about, to correct that, think about spreading the floor apart with your feet and driving out with your knees and pressing equally into both feet so that your hips can stay in the center. All right, that's everything. Let me know how it goes. Let me know if you have any questions about what I just talked about, and I'll talk to you soon.